I'm Evelyn Rhodes, 68 years old, a retired Army nurse. That morning in Portland, 6:12 a.m., I brewed my usual cup of mint tea and opened my biobank account to check the interest. The number on the screen hit me like cold steel, minus $55,000 overnight. Not a glitch, not a dream, just the brutal truth. A message pinged. Amelia, my daughter, 32. Mom, the apartment's wiring caught fire. We have to move out immediately. Can you give me access for just a few days? She even attached a photo of scorched wires and an emergency invoice. I'd once patched up soldiers under gunfire, but nothing had prepared me for the way a child's lie could wound deeper than shrapnel. I called. Busy signal. Called again. Straight to voicemail. My training told me, stay calm. I set alerts for any transaction over $1,000, but fear, that twisted mother's instinct, whispered, what if she really needs me? Against judgment, I granted temporary access. An hour later, withdrawal $8,200. 3 hours later, $3,900. By 7:40 p.m., another $12,000 gone. Each buzz of my phone felt like a scalpel cutting into me. By midnight, I had screenshots, receipts, and timestamps neatly logged, an old soldier's discipline. I didn't text accusations. I chose silence, letting the evidence speak. At 6:31 the next morning, her Instagram story lit up. Amelia, lips painted red, silk robe flowing, champagne glass raised, standing beneath neon letters. Tokyo Sky Resort. Caption, finally living the life we deserve. I set my teacup down without spilling a drop. My chest was ice, not fire. If my daughter thought her old mother wouldn't notice, she was about to learn a lesson. A mother's silence is not weakness, it's the storm gathering before it breaks. The photos kept coming like a slideshow of betrayal. Amelia poolside at noon, designer bags stacked like trophies. Damon, her husband, clinking glasses with his mother Celeste at a rooftop bar, all three of them glowing with my stolen future. The captions stung more than the withdrawals. Stop saving, start living. Money means nothing if you never spend it, and the one that nearly broke me. To new beginnings and leaving old baggage behind. Old baggage, that's what 28 years of sacrifice was to her. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I did what a nurse-turned soldier does best. I assessed the wound, planned the treatment. The wound was betrayal. The treatment was strategy. I pulled up my laptop and typed, Financial Fraud Investigator Portland. The name that stood out was Jonas Creed, a grizzled ex-cybercrime agent whose office reviews called a one-man wrecking ball against scammers. His voice on the phone was gravel and suspicion. Mrs. Rhodes, if they drained your account that fast, you're not dealing with amateurs. You're dealing with a crew. I handed him the screenshots, the timestamps, Amelia's glittering Tokyo updates. Jonas raised an eyebrow. Your daughter didn't stumble into this. She's been coached. The husband and the mother-in-law, names ring bells. Damon Voss, Celeste Voss, been floating around interstate watch lists for crypto fraud and elder exploitation. If they got your daughter involved, it wasn't by accident. It was recruitment. Recruitment. The word felt like a knife, but Jonas wasn't finished. He slid a folder across his desk. Photos, reports. Other families drained. Same pattern. Sudden emergencies, fast withdrawals, exotic vacations. You've got two options, Jonas said. Do nothing and watch them vanish with your retirement or fight back. But if we fight federal. I leaned forward, voice calm as steel. Then we fight federal. Jonas didn't waste time. By dawn the next day, he was at my kitchen table with black coffee strong enough to strip paint. First step, he said, we freeze what's left before they burn through it. Together, we called biobank, and I demanded every remaining cent be locked behind triple verification. Then Jonas placed a second call, this one to the Bureau of Cyber Justice. Wire fraud over 50,000, he explained, jotting notes. That's federal territory. The agent on the line asked for evidence. Jonas handed me a flash drive already loaded with Amelia's withdrawals, time stamps, and her neon-soaked Instagram stories. The voice on the other end grew sharp. "We'll assign a case number immediately." By noon, Jonas had uncovered even more. Damon and Celeste weren't just con artists, they were seasoned predators with warrants in Nevada and Texas. They specialized in grooming younger family members, convincing them to treat their parents' savings like free cash. Amelia hadn't been duped, she'd signed on willingly. That night, lying awake, I scrolled Amelia's feed again. A new video, her voice slurred with champagne, bragging to strangers online. "My mom always hoarded money like a dragon. Tyler, no, Damon taught me to finally use it. She'll never spend it anyway." She laughed, tilting her glass. Celeste chimed in, "Old people cling to money they'll never use, we're just speeding up the process." I hit record on my phone, 20 minutes of live-streamed confession, enough to sink them twice over. For the first time since the theft, I exhaled without shaking. Evidence was no longer just paper and numbers, it was their own mouths, mocking me, carving their guilt into digital stone. I whispered to the empty room, "Thank you, Amelia. You just handed me the rope you'll hang yourself with." By the following week, the Bureau of Cyber Justice had a task force circling like hawks, but Jonas wanted one more nail in the coffin. "We don't just want them arrested," he said. "We want them cornered so tight they can't wriggle out with some lawyer's trick." That's when the idea came. I sent Amelia a message, short and sweet. "I'm done fighting. I'll transfer another 20,000. Use it to settle somewhere stable. Let's start over." It wasn't forgiveness, it was bait. Jonas had tapped into Damon's travel habits, and sure enough, within hours of my message, airline records lit up. A one-way flight booked from Tokyo to San Francisco. "They're greedy," Jonas muttered. "They'll come back to cash out what they think is still yours." BCJ agents set up the sting at SFO's international arrivals. Plainclothes officers blended with the crowd, but I wanted to be there. Not hiding behind a desk, not just waiting for a phone call. No, after 32 years of motherhood and 3 weeks of humiliation, I deserved to look Amelia in the eyes. The night before their flight, I stood in front of the mirror brushing my silver hair into a neat twist, choosing a navy dress crisp enough for church but strong enough for war. My reflection stared back. No longer the naive nurse who gave away bank passwords out of love, but the strategist who'd learned silence could be sharper than any blade. At 10:00 a.m., Jonas called. "They are in the air. 16 hours, get ready." I set my teacup down with the same precision I'd set down scalpels decades ago. The countdown had begun. "They think they're coming home to celebrate," I murmured. "They're walking straight into their funeral march." San Francisco International buzzed with the chaos of Monday travelers. Families dragging suitcases, business people rushing for taxis, the air thick with jet fuel and anticipation. I stood by the arrival's gate, Jonas at my side, a pair of BCJ agents scattered in the crowd. My heart was steady, not racing. This was no reunion. This was justice waiting to be served. At 10:27 a.m., they appeared. Amelia first, bronzed from island sun, pulling a designer suitcase half her size. Damon strutted behind her in a linen shirt, sunglasses perched like he was auditioning for a magazine spread. Celeste, dripping in pearls, waved at no one in particular, basking in an audience only she believed she had. For a moment, I just watched. My daughter smiling as though the world owed her something, completely unaware that the world was about to come collecting. Then the agents moved. 3 of them closed in, badges flashing. "Damon Voss, you are under arrest for wire fraud and conspiracy." Damon's swagger snapped, his voice breaking. "Wait, this is a mistake." Celeste shrieked, her pearls clattering as handcuffs clicked shut. Finally, Amelia. Amelia Rhodes, you are under arrest for theft and financial exploitation. Her suitcase slipped from her hands, thudding against the tile. She looked around frantically until her eyes landed on me. Mom, she mouthed, tears already spilling. I raised my hand and gave a small, deliberate wave. Not tender, not cruel, just final. Mom, help me. She screamed as the agents pulled her aside. Every head in the terminal turned. Phones recorded. Strangers whispered. Instead of rushing to her, I pulled out my own phone, lifted it high, and snapped a photo. My daughter in cuffs, the lies finally weighing more than her pride. I posted it with one caption: "Consequences have landed." By that evening, the photo I posted had traveled faster than the plane that brought them home. News outlets picked it up within hours. Retired nurse outsmarts daughter's $55,000 heist. Channel 7 called before sunset, asking for an interview. I have video of her bragging online, I told them. Drunk, confessing every detail. The producer's tone sharpened instantly. We want it on air tonight. At 6:15 p.m., the footage rolled across televisions from Portland to Miami. There was Amelia, poolside, glass raised, giggling. Why should Mom keep money she'll never use? Damon showed me how to spend it before it goes to waste. Cue laughter from Damon and Celeste, their faces smug, their voices dripping with contempt. The segment ended with my airport photo. The headline burned across the screen. Daughter betrays mother, arrested after vacation with stolen retirement funds. By midnight, it wasn't just local, it was national. Talk shows dissected it. Hashtags trended, #Gray Justice, #Vacation in prison. My phone exploded with messages. Some were neighbors offering sympathy. Others were strangers, people in their 60s, 70s, confessing their own stories. My granddaughter took my credit cards. My nephew emptied my account. For the first time, they weren't whispering in shame. They were speaking out. And Amelia, she called from jail, sobbing so hard I could barely make out the words. Mom, please bail me out, I need a lawyer. I let her cry for 30 seconds before I answered. Amelia, alcohol doesn't invent truths, it unmasks them. You meant every word you said on that video, and now the whole country knows it. Please, Mom. You made your choice, sweetheart. Now live with it. I hung up, my hand steady, my chest lighter than it had felt in weeks. The next morning, my inbox was flooded. Subject lines read like confessions. He drained my pension. She stole my Social Security. Please tell me what you did. Strangers from Florida, Arizona, Texas, people I'd never met, suddenly saw me as their battle flag. They weren't just curious. They were desperate for a blueprint to fight back. But Amelia's world was shrinking. At the county jail, she wasn't the influencer sipping champagne. She was inmate #42,319, orange jumpsuit hanging loose, hair pulled back without a mirror. Her lawyer petitioned me for support. I declined. Still, I agreed to one visit. I wanted her to see the difference between a plea and accountability. Amelia shuffled into the visiting booth, eyes red-rimmed. She picked up the phone like it was a lifeline. Mom, she whispered, voice cracking. Please tell them I was tricked. Damon pressured me. Celeste brainwashed me. I didn't mean. I leaned forward, eyes hard. You practiced those lies for Instagram, but the live stream, that was your real voice. No one poured words into your mouth. You stole from me. Amelia, you mocked me. You laughed while spending my future. Her shoulders collapsed, tears sliding silently. When I walked out, Jonas was waiting by the door. He handed me a folder. Good news, Damon and Celeste, they've got priors in 3 states. Identity theft, elder abuse, federal warrants are stacking up. And Amelia, I asked. Jonas sighed. She's not the victim here. She was part of the con, but the federal case is ironclad now. That night, I stood in front of 40 seniors at a local community center, telling them my story. I expected pity. Instead, I saw fire in their eyes. Survivors just like me. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was leading an army. By the time Amelia's arraignment date arrived, the case had become a circus. Reporters camped outside the courthouse. Satellite trucks lined the block. The headline, "Daughter Steals Mother's Future," had gone viral, and suddenly I was the accidental face of a growing crisis. Family financial betrayal. I hadn't planned to be an activist. I just wanted my retirement back. But the media storm wouldn't quiet, so I leaned in. I appeared on Good Morning America, sitting under bright studio lights, explaining the warning signs of exploitation. Sudden emergencies, rushed cash demands, disappearing funds. The hosts leaned forward like schoolchildren. Viewers at home, I hoped, leaned forward too. Letters poured in, hundreds of them, from seniors who had been scammed by their own blood. Some wrote in anger, others in shame, but most in relief. They weren't alone anymore. A Florida widow wrote, "My grandson took $68,000. I never told anyone until I saw you." That one broke me. I called her myself. Meanwhile, Jonas and the BCJ stacked charges like bricks. Wire fraud, conspiracy, elder exploitation, cyber theft. Damon and Celeste's histories stretched like a rap sheet quilt. And Amelia, she was listed not as a victim, but as a co-conspirator. The night before the trial, I sat at my kitchen table with a pot of tea, papers spread like battle plans. I looked at Amelia's childhood photo, taped to my fridge since she was 5. Pigtails, missing tooth, eyes bright. And I asked myself the cruelest question: how do you prepare to testify against your own child? The answer was as sharp as it was painful. You do it the same way you tend a wound. You clean it, stitch it, and stop the bleeding, even if it hurts like hell. The courtroom smelled of old wood and cold coffee, the kind of place where truth and lies wrestled for breath. Damon sat at the defense table, jaw clenched, still trying to look like a man in control. Celeste wore pearls again, as if jewelry could disguise rot. And Amelia, my daughter, sat between them, orange jumpsuit traded for a gray blazer, her hair tied back too tight. She looked smaller, but not innocent. When the clerk read the charges, the list seemed endless. Wire fraud, conspiracy, elder exploitation, interstate cyber theft. Each word was another nail hammered into their future. The prosecutor opened with the evidence: bank withdrawals, airline receipts, digital trails leading straight to Tokyo. Then came the live stream. On the screen, Amelia's drunken laugh filled the room. Why should my mom hoard money she'll never use? Damon showed me how to finally live. Celeste's voice chimed in. Old people cling to money they'll never spend. We're just speeding things up. Damon smirked, raising his glass. The jury didn't smirk. When it was my turn, I walked to the witness stand. My hands didn't shake. I spoke clearly: how the withdrawals started, how the lies piled up, how the betrayal cut deeper than the theft. They didn't just steal money, I told the jury. They stole trust, and trust is harder to earn back than any dollar. 3 days later, the verdicts landed like thunder. Damon, 22 years. Celeste, 15. Amelia, 6 years with parole possible in 4. As the judge read the sentences, Amelia turned in her chair, searching for my eyes. "Mom," she mouthed, her lips trembled. I didn't nod. I didn't wave. I just sat, spine straight, knowing justice had finally spoken. The gavel had barely cooled when life moved on without ceremony. Damon and Celeste disappeared into the federal system, swallowed by orange jumpsuits and steel doors. Amelia was transferred to a women's facility 3 hours south. For the first time in years, my house was quiet. No phone buzzing with excuses, no messages dripping with manipulation. Just silence, and for once it felt like peace. But silence didn't last. Letters began arriving from Amelia. At first, they were frantic. "Mom, please appeal." I was drunk, I didn't mean it. I left them unopened. By month 6, her tone shifted. I've started attending therapy. They asked me to help teach financial literacy classes to other inmates. I read that one twice, then a third time. Maybe it was a performance, maybe genuine, but it was a crack in the wall she'd built around herself. Meanwhile, my story had grown legs. Seniors invited me to speak at churches, libraries, community centers. Some audiences were 5 people in folding chairs, others 50 under fluorescent lights. Each time I told the same truth. Family betrayal isn't private shame, it's public theft, and fighting back is not cruelty, it's survival. After one talk, a woman named Dorothy pressed my hand. My daughter's boyfriend drained my retirement. I thought it was my fault for trusting her. Hearing you gave me courage to file charges. Tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time, mine did too, not for loss, but for purpose. At night, when the house felt too still, I'd pour tea and reread Amelia's latest letter. She no longer begged. She reflected. She wrote about accountability, about facing the women she'd once mocked. And though I wasn't ready to forgive, I felt the faintest spark. Maybe she was finally learning the difference between excuses and change. By the second year of Amelia's sentence, her letters sounded different. Gone were the frantic pleas and hollow apologies. Instead, she wrote about leading classes in the prison library, helping women understand budgeting, teaching them how scammers operate, even warning them about the very tricks she once used. "It's strange," she wrote, "explaining fraud from the inside out, like being fluent in a language I wish I'd never learned." I found myself reading those words by the glow of my kitchen lamp, torn between pride and pain. She was finally using her sharpness for something good, but I couldn't forget how she'd first sharpened it on me. Meanwhile, my own life took an unexpected turn. A clip of one of my talks went viral online. Within weeks, I was invited to Washington, D.C., to speak before a congressional panel on elder exploitation. Me, a retired nurse who used to clip coupons, now testifying about digital theft and family betrayal under marble ceilings. Family financial abuse is a silent epidemic, I told the lawmakers. It doesn't just steal money, it fractures generations. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashed, and for the first time I saw officials actually listening. Back home, I received a call from Dorothy, the widow in Florida. Her case had gone federal, too. "They arrested him," she said, voice trembling. "Your story gave me courage. I'm not a victim anymore." That night, I placed her letter alongside Amelia's on my refrigerator. One written in shame, one written in hope. Both proof that even devastation can ripple outward into something bigger. Still, every time I stared at Amelia's photo, the little girl with the missing tooth taped to my fridge, I whispered the same truth. Redemption is possible, but forgiveness has to be earned. 4 years after the arrest, Amelia walked out of prison gates with a cardboard box in her arms and a parole officer at her side. She looked older, thinner, her sharp edges dulled by years of concrete and routine. But what struck me most was her silence. No dramatic speech, no excuses, just a quiet nod when she saw me waiting in the parking lot. "Coffee?" I asked. She nodded again. At the diner, we sat across from each other, hands wrapped around chipped mugs. For the first time in years, there was no manipulation in her eyes, only exhaustion. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said, "but I want a chance to prove I'm not the same woman who mocked you from a resort balcony." I studied her, the daughter who once called me baggage, now asking for nothing more than a chance. "Prove it," I said. "With actions, not words. Build something, help someone, earn your life back." Over the next months, Amelia lived in a halfway house and found work at a nonprofit helping ex-offenders reintegrate. She sent me photos, not of cocktails or designer bags, but of workshops, job fairs, support groups. "We placed 3 women into housing today," she texted once. Another time, "I started a program warning families about financial scams." I kept my responses short. Good, keep going. But in private, I clipped each photo to my fridge beside the old ones, building a gallery of contradictions. The little girl with pigtails, the woman in cuffs, and now the tentative version trying to rebuild. When Amelia finally asked, "Could we try Sunday dinners again?" I hesitated. Then I surprised both of us. One at a time, bring honesty, not excuses. For the first time, she smiled, not with arrogance, but with gratitude. 2 years into parole, Amelia called me with news that sounded like fiction. "The Bureau of Cyber Justice reached out," she said, her voice trembling. "They want me to consult, help them understand how family scams are built from the inside." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The same agency that cuffed her at San Francisco International now wanted her advice. "Do you think you're ready for that?" I asked carefully. "I think I'm the only one who knows both sides," she admitted. "I've lived the scam, and now I've lived the consequences." It wasn't lost on me, the poetic symmetry, she who once betrayed now being trusted to protect, but it also terrified me. "Amelia, this can't be another performance." She met my gaze across the diner table. "It's not. It's the first chance I've had to make the wreckage matter." The Bureau hired her on a probationary basis. Within weeks, she was sitting in conference rooms, sketching out how scammers script fake emergencies, how they pressure family members, how they justify the theft. Agents took notes like students at a lecture. I saw clips of her trainings online, measured, sharp, focused. No cocktails, no neon lights, just purpose. Meanwhile, I was traveling too. Washington asked me to speak at national trainings for victim advocates. My message was simple. Family betrayal can either end you or define you. Choose definition. One night after a conference, Amelia joined me on stage to answer questions. A woman in the audience asked, "How can I ever trust my son again after what he did?" Amelia leaned forward. "You don't rebuild trust overnight. You earn it with every small choice every day for years. I'm still earning mine." And for the first time, I felt not just wary pride, but the beginning of belief. By the 5th year after Amelia's release, our lives looked nothing like the wreckage we'd crawled out of. The Bureau of Cyber Justice announced a new National Family Financial Crimes Task Force, and Amelia was asked to lead it. At the same time, the Department of Justice tapped me to train law enforcement nationwide on how to work with victims of family exploitation. It felt surreal. The mother who once testified against her daughter, now appearing beside her at conferences, not as enemies but as co-workers. Partners in a war neither of us had chosen, but both of us were built to fight. The press called it Gray Justice, a family redemption story. I hated the branding, but I couldn't deny the reach. Our appearances drew crowds not just for the crime details, but for the strange paradox we embodied. Betrayal turned into collaboration, shame turned into advocacy. Together, we stood before hundreds, sometimes thousands of families, seniors, and agents. I'd open with my story, the withdrawals, the betrayal, the photo at the airport. Then Amelia would take the mic, steady but humble. "I'm not proud of who I was, but I'm proof that even those who commit these crimes can change if the system forces accountability and offers a path forward." The applause wasn't for forgiveness, it was for possibility. Letters started piling in again, but this time they weren't pleas for help. They were thank yous. "Your story gave me the strength to report my grandson. We pressed charges and got restitution. I see hope for my daughter because of yours." Walking off stage one night, Amelia whispered, "Do you realize we've recovered over $500 million for victims, Mom?" I smiled faintly. "That's good, but the real victory, families learning that love and justice can coexist without canceling each other out." 9 years after I watched my savings vanish into a Tokyo skyline, I stood in Central Park with Amelia, sipping coffee on a Sunday morning. The air was crisp, Children laughed on the playground, and for the first time in decades, I felt something close to peace. Amelia was no longer the reckless daughter with champagne in her hand. She was Director Rhodes now, leading a national task force that had returned $500 million to families like mine. The irony was almost comical. The thief turned protector, the betrayer turned advocate. She handed me a folder. Inside was a letter, her draft of the foreword for my book, Gray Justice, How to Survive Family Betrayal and Fight Back. Her words stopped me cold. The worst thing I ever did led me to the best version of myself. Redemption is not saying sorry, it's proving every day that you've changed. I looked at her, this woman who was once my biggest heartbreak and now my reluctant pride. "Do you know what you are to me now?" I asked. "What?" she whispered. "Not forgiven, not forgotten, but rebuilt, and sometimes rebuilt is stronger than new." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Instead, she took my hand, steady, certain. Later that night, I pinned another clipping to my refrigerator. The headline read, "Mother-Daughter Team Helps You. Families Recover Record $500 million. I smiled, not for the money, but for the proof that even ruin can be recycled into purpose. I poured my tea, sat by the window, and wrote the final line of my manuscript. The theft was just the beginning. What came after was my choice. And I chose to turn betrayal into a weapon, not of revenge that destroys, but of justice that protects. And with that, my story was complete.